Yes, it is NFL Explained. Yes, he is the Super Bowl champ. Michael Robinson, Mike Am with you. This is the episode all about facts. You realize that, right?
Absolutely.
That's the reality that we live in.
Facts.
Yes. We are bringing the heat. I have been talking about this all season long. Yo, DM us. Send your questions. Mailbag episode. As delivered, as promised.
Yes.
We are delivering.
We're delivering
on this. I often said this. I get excited. We had some DMs coming in. We actually have some other episodes around some of these questions that we've gotten.
You have the DMs coming in because, again, I'm married. I love my wife. Don't DM me that much, guys. Just relax.
Yeah. Believe me, the DMs aren't anything like that. Anything like that. In fact, some of them are so thoughtful in their responses. And in fact, there's one question coming up in a little bit where I said, man, that's a good question because that affects me on Sundays. So I was like, we're going to be talking about it. So you ready to rock and roll?
Let's
you want to just dive deep into this?
Let's get it, man.
All right, I'm going to start off with this one for this mailbag episode. What do punters do during practice? When I was a kid, I thought they just punted all practice, but now I realize your leg isn't capable of doing that all day, every day. No. So what do they do all day?
That's a really good question. Honestly, I never really thought about what punters do, but they punt. Obviously, in most NFL practices, Wednesdays are the first days that we're on the field. That's your base personnel day, and in the teams that I was on, Wednesdays was punt day. Right, so special teams will go out there first. The punter will be out there first. Then the punt team will go out. Then the rest of the team will go out. Then we start practice. And then in the middle of practice, we have another punt period. So Wednesdays would be the punt time where he would go punt. Fridays would also be a big time punt time. So Wednesdays would be kind of punt and kickoff. Thursdays would be punt return and kickoff return. And then Fridays we would do kind of all of them. So he would punt on those 2 days. But during the rest of the days of the week, I would always see like the quarterbacks, because the quarterbacks always just need bodies, right? Because they're throwing the football to a lot of people. And during individual drills, oftentimes the quarterback coach will grab the punter or the kicker or somebody, get those guys to stand out there and kind of be placeholders so the quarterbacks have targets. And then during a show team, you have your practice squad guys and extra players practicing as if they were your opponent that week. Oftentimes you'll get a punter or a kicker when we need extra bodies to come over and run this and help run the scout team.
All right. So I know totally different here, but as we're getting this question about punters, I was on my phone because I'm like, oh, I got to show you this video because it's a little different here. And it's a pregame deal. Justin Tucker, who, by the way, was a guest on this podcast last season and sort of talked us through the science of a field goal in pregame, kicked an 87-yarder.
Are you kidding
me?
Yeah.
So I know, once again, a little different, but I started thinking about what kickers are doing during practice as well. Like, and I'm wondering if the cadence is the same. By the way, when Justin Tucker buries an 87-yard field goal, now granted, it was in New Orleans, it was before their Monday night game, so it's inside the dome, but still, nonetheless, man, like that's still pretty crazy. Can you imagine what a kicker's practice routine is like? Just keep going back.
Oh man, kickers practice routine. Yeah, I'm assuming they kick a bunch of field goals. Yes, yams. But just like to the punters question, those guys can't kick every single day. Yeah. It's just like quarterbacks. Like they can't sit there and throw with the intensity every single day. So you do have to manage those guys. But at the end of the day, I used to get on my kickers all the time. When you only kick all day during the game, you better make them all on Sunday. Yeah. Okay, make them all on Sunday.
Just get it done. And by the way, Justin Tucker, GOAT. I don't know if there's another player. I was thinking about this the other day. Is there another player that's better than he is at his position? Like the answer is no.
No, I mean maybe Josh. No, I ain't gonna.
I mean, but think about that. Like if you started throwing quarterbacks out there, like at least it's debatable, right? Like if you said Josh Allen, be like, all right, I'll take Patrick Mahomes. Like you can have those debates. Like on the kicker side, I say Justin Tucker, and it kind of ends there.
There is nobody else.
There is nobody else. It's kind of wild. Got another question for you, and this one. To me, this is what I was referring to where it was affecting me for a long period of time. Australian fan here. Yes, here we go. I would love to understand the Sunday afternoon broadcast maps better. How do they decide which parts of Oregon get the Chargers and which parts get the 49ers?
Oh, that is a really good question. I'm assuming it would be on the geographical location of the city and the team, but that is a really good question. That's a technical question right there.
It really is. And thank God we have technical people who can give us the answer to it, because I'm at home sometimes. Now, before I got to NFL Network, you know, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little cheap, man. Like, I don't have it like
I'm
that.
cheap too.
So you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the whole, like, you know, NFL Sunday ticket. No, man, I'm just gonna go out. Like, I'll go hang out with my friends. You know, like, that's where I'll go consume the games. You want me to spend? I just wasn't willing to do that. Then I start working here, and I'm like, yo, I need to be able to watch out of market. You have to. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to pony up and get this done. So Red Zone obviously has changed my life and many fans and the whole thing. But what's sort of fascinating about this Australian fans, this is a real predicament, because in the state of Oregon, you're like, well, why would they care about the Chargers? Well, Justin Herbert is from Eugene, Oregon, and played at Oregon. And the last time I was up in Portland, all I saw was Chargers jerseys, and they all said Justin Herbert on it. So I'm like, oh, like, that's actually a really good response. So, and Rob, to your point, that's like, cool. The map is actually really significant. So here's the official answer here. The NFL's national broadcast partners, so we got Fox, CBS, they assign different NFL games to different markets with some help, obviously, from the league. It is based on regional and national interest in games and teams. So local TV affiliates, they don't get any final say in the final decisions, but they can make some requests if they want. Each team has a primary market, right? So that makes sense to people. That's set by the NFL, and those primary markets are required to show all road games and all home games, unless the home games are not sold out, in which case they can be called blackout games locally. These are the metropolitan areas, basically, which the teams actually are. So each team also has a secondary market that must air road games of a given team and would be blacked out of home games that don't sell out, but they don't have to air all home games. So that's a little kind of convoluted here, but essentially broadcast maps are published on 506 Sports, which began tracking broadcast maps in 2005. Previously, the maps were, generally speaking, a little unknown. The shortest way and most concise way of saying this is, if your team is in a given city, you're getting those games. And then the secondary side of things, there's obviously a little bit of a wiggle room.
Well, I know for me growing up, man, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, so we don't have a team. We didn't have an NFL team. Our closest team was the Washington Commanders. They were the Redskins when I was growing up. So obviously we got a lot of Washington Redskins games, but it was really the entire NFC East. I was so surprised when I got older and conscious enough to kind of understand what's going on, how many Dallas Cowboy fans are in the state of Virginia. They're everywhere, Mike. They're literally, bro, like every bar you go to on Sunday, there are Cowboys fans everywhere. And again, it's a tribute to Jerry Jones. He's amazing at marketing and spreading the brand and those things. But the NFC East teams, especially the Dallas Cowboys, those were the teams most marketed to me, and those were the teams that I saw most growing up.
You know, we've talked about, like, what's the label? America's team, right? And a lot of that has to do with the Cowboys being on television in the early days, right? Like, and I'll make this as like a baseball analogy here. TNT. That the Turner family obviously had the Atlanta Braves, so they had a television network. The TNT, you get on regular cable, they started airing Braves games all the time. So all of a sudden, the Braves started becoming a really popular team. Sort of the same thing could be said for how it all worked out for the Dallas Cowboys. Kind of cool there. All right. A lot of talk of Lamar Jackson and his contract. Pay
that man.
Which, by the way, come on,
man.
A lot has been made. Here's the question. A lot has been made about Lamar Jackson not having an agent. Is this smart? What does an NFL agent actually do? Side note here, M-Rob and I actually have the same broadcast agent, so be careful what you say.
You're right. But we're talking about talking about an NFL football player and an agent in his contract. KB, you know it's all love, baby. When I look at my playing days, and I'm not going to say who my agent was, I look back and I can say I'm not going to sit here and say I necessarily needed him all the way back then, because when I looked at it, the way the draft works, you're slated pretty much in a spot. There's not much wiggle room. I was a 4th round pick, right? I wasn't going to make more than the last pick of the 3rd round. I wasn't going to make more than a quarterback who was picked close to me in the draft. And once I started to understand that, I started to say, well, what could an agent really do in this particular situation? What the agent did do for me coming in to the National Football League was help get me ready. right? Paying for, workouts, getting me ready for the combine, understanding the Wonderlic test, having psychologists come in and understand the questions that you were going to. I was so prepared for the combine, Mike. Like, I know I passed it with flying colors. Right? I was that much prepared for the combine. But again, just looking back on the business part of it, your play gets you paid. And when I look back at negotiations and, after your rookie deal, I think the agent is important to save face, to keep people's personal feelings out of it, because let's just be honest, a lot of the National Football League are people of color. A lot of people of color don't really trust business or understand business just based off of history and whatsoever. So when a lot of players and a lot of guys that I know and I talk to, when they hear about contracts and whatever, they just say, you know what, my agent got it. Just put it to their agent because they don't even want to think about it. But again, once I started reading contracts and understanding what was going on, I understood that I understand the language. I know what a good deal and what a bad deal isn't. But again, having that buffer when you're negotiating with a team and then got to go out to practice with them, and the same people that are coaching you are also in there trying to get you for a lower dollar, that could get you emotional and have you taking business a little bit more emotional. So, yeah, I do think an agent is important for that aspect of negotiating.
You ever think it slows it down?
Yes.
Like, is that not to call
absolutely.
out like Lamar, and obviously that was, sort of what it was in reference to. Like, there's a part of me that says, like, if maybe you had an agent, maybe this thing gets done. I have no idea. I don't have inside knowledge to it, but I'm just wondering how that affects the timing of things.
I don't know. We don't have any idea if that's the case either. But I will say this. Yes, there would have been, if Lamar had an agent, there would be somebody in his ear saying, bro, we got to get this done. You can't go out there the way that you play. Just more advice from a business standpoint. But at the end of the day, if Lamar understands who has the power in an agent and player relationship, the agent works for you. If Lamar has a number in his head from a guaranteed standpoint that he wants, whether he has an agent or not, the deal won't get done until the Baltimore Ravens meet that number.
So I'm going to go into some detail here, and there's another question that I have for you about specific agents in general. But here's some quick facts for you. There's 913 certified agents currently listed in the NFLPA's database. That's important because you can't.
I thought it was more than that.
Well, I mean, think about that. Like 913. I don't know. I feel like you got to be certified. You have to be approved.
I thought it was more than that, quite frankly. And honestly, the NFLPA, they do a great job. I get letters when there's these bad agents out there. They put out alerts like, yo, don't mess with this guy. This is his number. This is his picture. This is where his office is. All of those things, because, again, we're the National Football League. There's so many guys that just want to get their hands on players, and they're trying to protect the players in the agent business.
Which is really good that you need to be certified to do any deal with the league because, and not to make this like a broadcast deal, but generally speaking, you don't need to be certified, obviously, if you're going to represent on-air people. And there needs to be some of those letters that go out on some of those. That's a story for another podcast. You know what I'm saying? That has nothing to do with the NFL. But not everyone's always on the up and up. And that's just sort of important to know. So the NFL and the NFLPA specifically try to do their best to police a lot of that. So you got to be licensed by the Players Association. All agents must pass an agent exam that ensures they know the ins and the outs of the collective bargaining agreement and the salary cap so they can properly negotiate contracts against a team's salary cap manager. Sort of interesting because there's like a science to it. You always hear about capologists. NFL teams have it, NBA teams, the whole thing. A lot of front offices deal in those terms. The maximum, and here's what I'm talking about here, the maximum commission for NFL agents from a player's on-field earnings is 3%. That's set by the PA. The standard commission, though, sitting at 1.5% to 2%. Get that number lower.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, come on.
Get it as low as you possibly can. I know, again, for my agent at the time, I gave him 3%, but it was based off of where I got drafted. The higher I got drafted, the lower the number was. Because you make more money, the lower the number he's going to make his money. It offsets each other. So, again, that's something you got to look at.
All right. So the maximum commission for those who sign franchise or transition tenders, that's set at 2%, and it drops to 1.5%, 1% in the second and third years that a player is signed to a franchise transition tender. So it kind of is what M-Rob's talking about. You know, once you're not negotiating, you sign a franchise tag like, yo, the number's set.
It is what it is.
It does make sense that that number gets slotted in from an agent's perspective. There's a ton of agents, though, making money from a player's off-field earnings. There's no commission limit on that side. 20% standard commission rate for agents to charge for off-field earnings.
No.
Now, that number is actually coming from our research team. So who am I to say like, man, I don't know about that. 20% off of like, so if you get like a Nike or apparel, 20% out the door?
Hell no.
Right?
You ain't getting it from me.
Seriously.
Oh, no,
I'm
no,
like,
no,
hell
no, no.
I like that 1.5% number we were talking about before.
Exactly. Kind of like when you're negotiating interest on a loan or something you got going on with the bank. Same type of deal. Look, I always wanted to separate my marketing people from my agent people. I wanted them two separate companies. I want them competing. I want them completely separate. In actuality, and if my agent had a marketing deal that came up, I would say, well, then give it to my marketing people. That is not your job. It's not. I don't want you to convolute any buckets that you may be looking at to get money from. I don't want any gray area. It's black and white. You do this, you do that. And I just think some guys get in trouble by going with some agents who will say, oh yeah, one-stop shop, I can do it all. Well, unless you're going on a weekly basis, line by line, about what your bills and invoices and money's coming in, you don't know exactly where that money's going. So again, I always charge guys and tell them, look, man, take control of your own affairs.
Well, I wish I had the skill and talent that you did to play in the league to have some of these conversations and thought process. But I always say it like this: like when I get my taxes done, I go to a tax accountant who only does taxes.
That's it.
Like I don't want you telling me about some other product or some other investment. Like I don't play that game.
If you got insurance, you're dealing with life insurance. Just mess with my taxes. That is it, man.
Just make sure Uncle Sam's not coming after
exactly.
me. It's the only thing I care about. Emrob touched on some of the duties of an agent. I just want to list a few because maybe not everyone is necessarily thinking in those terms. You touched on the pre-draft workout, the combine, the pro day training, all of those things really important. Also helping to facilitate pre-draft workouts. Support and guidance during like college all-star games. So when you think about East-West Shrine Bowl, that one comes to mind. I was there last year, NFL PA Bowl, going back to Vegas for that one. You got to get on that show.
I'm trying to get on it, man.
That'd actually be a lot of fun to be able to go with you on that.
You know what? And just while you're going through this, the agent usually, if it's a good agent, has a staff like setting you up for the combine, setting you up for these, visits to teams or whatever. You don't necessarily have the time to be talking to teams and setting up travel. There's a lot of logistics that go into this. The agent does a great job with their staffs of kind of helping you out and supporting you in that regard.
Yeah, we mentioned the endorsements, brand management, assisting setting up charities and charity events, public relations, social media needs, interviews with media. I can't even tell you how many times just in some of the radio work that I've done where you get a guest before the draft and you're going through their agent. So you're right. Like, hey, you need to coordinate my workouts / my travel city to city for my interviews, help me with the psychologist who can get me prepped for that interview when I go and talk to the team. Hey, some people that might know people in that front office, what are some of the questions that might be coming my way? And then, oh, by the way, on my way to the airport or to the workout, hey, I got to go and do this radio hit.
Absolutely.
Like there's a lot of that stuff. And people might be, it's like, how bad could that be? Yo, you try juggling all that stuff.
It's a lot, man. I know for me, when I was coming out, my agent had me get a private quarterback to come in and train me because again, it was always that what position he's going to play, those types of things. He brought in a private quarterback for me. I ended up working out with a private running back coach, a receiver coach, all of those things. So again, when I got in front of a NFL team, I knew exactly what I was prepared to do.
All right, so we've talked about the agents. We told you about kickers, specifically the punters. I just bring up Justin Tucker because that gives me an opportunity to promote something that we did last season because you can go back and check that out. Mike M and Emrob with you. Fire off those questions because, by the way, this is not the only time we're going to do one of these mailbag editions. I think it was Ann who sent me a DM and was asking about defense and all that stuff. Yo, we just did a podcast about that. Yes. So if you miss any of our podcasts, just remember though, like not like timely. We're not talking about like, hey, what happened on Sunday? Like we're giving you some real stuff. So I just encourage people to sort of check in on some of those stuff. All right, let's get back to some of these questions here. Did you ever, by the way, have any teammates like that were, I don't know, cousins, brothers,
Not that I could remember off the top of my head. Now, I played with Beast Mode. Beast Mode got a lot of cousins. I don't know if they real cousins or fake cousins, but he got a lot of cousins. So, yeah, I do remember him saying that's my cousin a few times. But no, I'm gonna say no.
I wish I remember the story and the players that were involved. At my previous job, I was covering college football at the time, and I interviewed one player who I think was at UCLA. And no. It was Arizona. U of A kid who told me that his cousin played at Colorado. Okay. So I'm like, all right, cool. So next time I'm in Boulder, like we're going back and forth. And I brought that up and I was like, and I was like, oh, he's like, oh yeah, he's my cousin. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, so are your parents? And it was like not blood related.
Yes, not blood related.
So I was like, wait a second. Like, what do you guys like? Cousin?
Gotta put you up on game, Yams. You know what I'm saying? Once we become close, we cousins. You know what I'm saying? That's how it go.
The vernacular a little different. I was looking at it a little bit more on like the technical term, cousin, blood relation.
So again, no case of your dad and your were y'all related?
Your uncle and my mom. No.
We play like cousins. So, you know how that go.
There are some obvious ones, right? So here's one of the questions that we got from a listener. TJ Watt and his brother JJ both have a chance to be Hall of Famers. What other family legacies like that have played in the NFL? Anything like off the top of your head that kind of strikes you as?
I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to look. The Gronkowskis.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
The Watts, obviously, JJ, TJ, and then they got the fullback that's out there with TJ. The Sharps. Sterling used to work for us. He was actually my mentor in the broadcasting game, Sterling, and Shannon Sharp, who's also on television. The Matthews.
Oh, yeah.
The Matthews. You see, I'm going with all the blocking. And
I know. I was
the other positions. I'm not going to say the Mannings. Everybody knows the Mannings, Yams.
Yeah.
I guess the Mannings, yeah. Who else? Is that it?
Well, you got a bunch, man. I mean, the Mannings are the obvious ones just because of the legacy, the notoriety, the commercials. Man, think about this. 20%. If Peyton and Eli are paying that to their agent are you serious? Let's get back to this agent conversation. Not that I want to dip into 20% commission rates,
but again, when you got they got a franchise name. They got a Manning name. So why even hire somebody like that? Hire your dad, keep the dollar in your family, and just go with it that way. I think that's how they do it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. The Bosas certainly come to mind.
Oh, yeah, the Bosa.
Right? Like John Bosa, first-round pick 1987, and then obviously Nick and Joey just tearing it
muscles
up.
On muscles, man.
Yeah.
Muscles on muscles.
You mentioned the Matthews. I didn't know. Like I knew, but I didn't know how deep it actually ran.
Oh, bro, they got layers and layers of them, okay? They got a football tribe over there, right? Their whole bloodline of football players, man. And they can block, they can tackle. I mean, they're big guys, too.
So you want to – I just think this one's kind of cool, this layer here. Clay Matthews Sr., taken in the 25th round of the 1949 NFL draft. If you don't think that we're going to get a mailbag question about the draft when it was in its 25th round.
Wow, 25 rounds?
Yeah. Is that like actually a thing? I didn't even know that was a thing.
I knew they had a lot of rounds, but 25? I just didn't know it went to 25 though.
All right.
Jeez.
So check this out. So that's Clay Matthews Sr. So he played defensive end 1949, right? Hall of Famer, who's Clay's senior son. That's Bruce Matthews, 14-time Pro Bowler. What's the record for Pro Bowl? I mean,
I don't know.
14's got to be close, though.
I think Peyton has the record or something like that.
It's funny. Actually, I don't have that in front of me. All right, so you got Bruce Matthews, right? Then Clay Sr.'s other son, that's Clay Matthews Jr., 4-time Pro Bowler. You got Clay Matthews III, who was Clay Jr.'s son, 6-time Pro Bowler.
Which one was the one that went to SC, Junior or the third?
Third, I think.
The last one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's who played with me. That dude was an animal to block, bro. I hated going up against him, especially when he played for the Green Bay Packers. I hated going up against Clay Matthews because, like, I was a thumper, right? Yeah. So I wanted a physical altercation with you. He didn't want that. He wanted to make the tackle in the backfield, the guy behind me. So it was just hard blocking that guy, man.
Yeah.
He was an animal.
It's kind of crazy here. So by the way, it's not the only layer that's there, right? So Jake Matthews, who's Bruce's son, he was a Pro Bowler. Casey Matthews, who was a linebacker, 4th-round draft pick also. And then you got Kevin Matthews, Bruce's son. He started 3 games in the league. Like, the point is, like, I mean, remember when Steffi Graf and Andre Agassi got married? You're like, yo, that kid is going to be like the greatest tennis player in the history of the sport. Like, think about the lineage in the Matthews family.
Oh my goodness, man! I mean, it's a football tribe. It's a football bloodline. I mean, we got the Howie Longs too. We got the Long family. I forgot about the Longs, Kyle and Chris. I played against both of those guys, man. Chris was a great defensive end in the National Football League, man, and he has a great podcast too.
I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
Not that we should be promoting.
No, we're not promoting it.
Make sure they promote NFL Explained. Then we'll do some give back.
I gotta shoot him a text. Yeah.
Ed McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Right.
Too.
I mean, think about Ed, and what was the story when Christian got traded to the Niners that Kyle Shanahan babysat, and then Kyle's favorite player growing up was Ed McCaffrey.
Yes. Look at all the connections. Look at the universe, Yams.
Yeah. Bob and Brian Greasy, little father-son duo as well. Only just because I mentioned this in a highlight the other day. Travis Kelce was at Jason Kelce's Eagles game. So the tight end from Kansas City, just throwing that out there. Who else? The McCourties, right?
I mean, hell, work for us.
I know. I was going to say, like, Good Morning Football was good. So Devin McCourty and then Jason McCourty.
The Slaters too. I want to mention Jackie Slater, Hall of Fame tackle, 7-time Pro Bowler, and Matthew Slater, who, again, one of the all-time great special team players in our league history. He's still doing it. 10-time Pro Bowler strictly for special teams. Pretty cool.
You mentioned the Sharps. I'll throw out the Barbers, Tiki and Rondé.
VA.
How about the Pouncey name? Talk about some big boys in the mix.
Yeah, man. They were actually on a podcast. Again, I'm not going to promote it, but they were on a podcast here recently. Man, they lost some weight too. All big guys, man. Stop losing all that weight.
And only because we work with him every Tuesday on Total Access. It's our guy. It's David Carr.
Oh, the car.
Yeah.
They do have a
How about you pause there for a second?
I didn't know where you were going at first.
I'm like, no.
Oh, David and Derek. Yeah.
I know the amount of times. Have you caught yourself calling David Derek?
I do it probably once a week.
Yeah, I've done that before. I get it.
He's like, Mike, there you go. Wrong name. I just messed that up.
You can always go DC. And you're always in the clear. You'll always be right on that one. But the point is, so many of these family combinations, and the only other thing that I'll throw out there, the Harbaugh family from the coaching tree, John and Jim, obviously, the Ryan family. You got Buddy, Rob, and Rex.
That's pretty cool, man. Yeah. And again, Buddy Ryan, one of my all-time favorite personalities in the National Football League. I never played for him, obviously, but I wanted to. I always wanted to.
Yeah. Do you ever watch Amazing Race?
Sometimes, yes, I actually do. It's crazy.
Rex was actually on the show.
I did not know that.
Dude, it was actually kind of funny.
Really?
Yeah. You should go check that out. That'll be like a little on-demand thing for you another time. All right, got another question for you. Players, and this is actually kind of a cool one. The players play on different surfaces. You got natural grass, you got turf. How do the guys actually decide what cleats they're going to use on the field?
A general rule of thumb that I just learned, I actually haven't even really heard anybody say this. This is something I learned just in my own experience. The heavier you are, the less spike you need. So if I've seen big guys just put on like shoes with very little spikes at the bottom, and they're so heavy that they don't slip. You know what I mean? They can actually walk on grass, be fine. The lighter you are, you want the molded cleats, the guys that are doing a bunch of cutting, your wide receivers, your defensive backs, and things like that. And for me, it's playing in a place like Chicago and Chicago Bears Stadium. Their grass is always longer. So was playing at Michigan. Their grass is always longer. I always thought that they didn't cut the grass on purpose to make us slower, but that's a whole nother podcast conversation, Yams. But in those longer grass situations or muddy situations, you want to wear the detached cleats where you see people having to screw the cleats on because you can make them longer, you can make them shorter. So.
Did you always wear the same ones and then just feel it or change depending on what the conditions were? Like if it was muddy and rainy, would you just wear different cleats?
Yeah, if it was muddy and rainy, I already knew I was going to go with the detached. If it was one of those games where it was just damp, natural grass though, I would go out there in my usual molded ones to feel it. And then if I felt like I was slipping, I would go put on the detached. Now, if it was rainy and it was field turf, I never used the detached because when it's field turf, I mean, it's almost like being on it's on a flat surface. It's not giving as much as the natural ground would. So wearing the longer spikes makes it more slippery.
Did you prefer playing on turf or grass?
Oh man, that's a hard question.
Yeah,
because really, you like the synthetic turf because it's versatile, and you always got your footing, so to speak. But natural grass gives. And my limbs, my ligaments,
so
the natural grass.
The field turf didn't give as much.
Not as much as natural grass. So for me, the stadium I always liked to play in was the Arizona Cardinals Stadium. Oh. It's a natural grass, but indoors. It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You got no rain, no weather, but the ground gave with you. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty cool.
I think some people might say, Mike, like, why would you think turf would give? Don't think AstroTurf.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Think
like
field turf, like the fake grass.
Because it really is. I mean, it's nice.
Oh, it's nice, and it has all these rubber pellets that kind of shield you from falling and things like that. And the thing about the rubber pellets, Mike, if you don't have a shield, and you get ran into the ground from a tackle or whatever, dude, it's pellets everywhere. People don't realize how hard that is, man. Like to get the stuff out of your head, to get stuff out of your eyes. And what if you're sick? What if you got a cold that day? Like, dude, I can't call in and say I can't play today because I got a stuffy nose.
That's a good point. The pellets, which by the way will come up in a second here, the pellets get all over you.
Oh,
like
man,
even if you
everywhere.
walk on field turf, like it like sticks to you,
bro.
Which is just
okay,
weird.
This might be a little much, but you know what? It's just me and you here.
Oh yeah,
right? It's just me and you here. Okay. Take a shower after the game, and it's pellets everywhere. Pellets coming out everywhere in the shower, man. Everywhere. You like, dude, I had my pants on the whole time. How pellets get right there? Pellets are everywhere, Mike, if you can imagine. Okay?
I don't want to. By the way, you're going to get some DMs just about crevices and pellets, okay? I'm just saying.
You said the word crevice.
That might come your way. Hey, one other note, by the way, I heard this great story, and it's related to what you're saying. One of our colleagues, Steve Mariucci, had said when he was coaching with the Packers, Barry Sanders was at the time playing for the Lions. He's like, you know what we're going to do with him? You know what we're going to do? We're going to slow him down. He said, we didn't cut the grass at Lambeau, and we just soaked the field. And he laughed. He's like, we kept him in check. Like it was, I don't know. He didn't remember the exact number, but it was like
it's a real thing.
Yeah, it was like 50 yards or something like that. It's hard to move out there.
It's a real thing, man. Competitive advantage.
I did ask him. I'm like, can you do that nowadays? He's like, I don't really know. But he's like, back then we could. No one was checking. So
keep it to yourself, Mooch.
Hey, one other note on, just because I know people really, you got people who are like into shoes and like sneaker culture and the whole thing. Just some research numbers on the actual cleats themselves. As Emrob made reference to, you got the molded ones permanently fastened to the shoe. That's the most common on artificial turf. The detached ones are the ones that Emrob was talking about. They come off the sole. They're usually longer spikes, and you're using those when the weather's not great, snow, when traction's a little bit more difficult. What pros wear actually found that 63% of starting wide receivers in the 2021 season wore Nike cleats. The most popular were the Nike Vapor Edge 360 Speed.
Super light, almost
I knew you'd know.
No ankle support, but I mean literally super, super light. Mike, you would hold these shoes and be like, oh my goodness, like, do you even have anything on your feet? Like, do you even feel like you have something on? They're super light. And again, this iteration of this 360 Speed, because it used to be the Speed TD back when I was playing, is a little bit more durable.
Yeah.
You can actually run as hard as you can and make a cut, and the cleat won't burst. Sometimes back in the day, the cleats used to burst.
Okay. Adidas, their most popular one. Do you know this one? The Adidas Adizero? 11.0?
No, I don't know about that one, but I'm sure my 13-year-old does.
Yes. There's no doubt, as he's taking a selfie and going to the selfie museum.
Exactly.
And Emrob, it's kind of interesting because the NFL began tracking cleats players wear in 2019 to find some trends between cleats and lower body injuries.
That's pretty cool, man, that they're actually even looking at that because, again, the way that your foot hits the ground is the first part of health when you're talking about athletes.
Yeah. I just want to throw one thing your way because you already knew about the Nike Vapor cleats, the whole thing. The best thing, the coolest thing, because the league is really, can I just say, I can say that, right? Like they're a little, I shouldn't say anal. So the league's really particular.
There you go.
Yeah,
man, be careful.
All right, I'm going to rewind here for a second. So, hey, Emrob, actually, since you knew all about like the Nike Vapor cleats and the whole thing, I'm going to throw something your way.
Okay.
It's one of the coolest things that I think the league allows to happen because, as we know, the NFL can be a little sticklers on uniform.
Yeah.
Right? You know where I'm going with this?
Very much stickler on uniforms. Yes.
My cause, my cleats. I love, first of all, they get to do like cool designs and all that stuff. I mean, it's for a good cause, like depending on what the cause for the player is. Did you take part in any of that stuff?
No, they didn't start doing it until I was on this side of it, but I did take part in it on this side, on the media side of it, because I'm an ex-player. The NFL player engagement department, yes, they come and ask us if we want our my cause, my cleats, but I think it's awesome. It's allowing players to take ownership of their causes. It's allowing players to say, look, this is what means the most to me. When you're watching me out here running around, when you're watching me out here put my body on the line and things like that, I'm doing it for this cause. And I think it's pretty cool. For me, from a cleat standpoint, I used to always steal Russell's and Marshawn's cleats because they were the big money dudes, man, and they got all the sweet cleats from Nike. So I'm like, Russell, after Tuesday's practice, I need those cleats because he wore a new pair every day with the green tips. After Tuesday practice, them need to come on over to Mike Rob's locker. And then I wear him Sunday. And he's fine. He got like 30 more pairs. He's fine. He's the quarterback. He got $500 million dude. We all knew he was going to get paid. And then Beast Mode would steal my real shoes. Like my real shoes that I wore to work. You know what I'm saying?
You drive home in cleats.
I drive home in socks sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Because he would take my real shoes. I would take his cleats because he would put the gold and he would pay the fees and the fines for not having the team colors on it, because they would fine us if your cleat is not the team colors. He didn't care. He just had a stand-in check waiting for him. Here, you can have it. I'm wearing the cleats I want. Beast Mode. They were pretty dope too.
All right, one last question because I don't want someone to DM me saying, why didn't you ask Emrob about this? You didn't take Russell's cleats every single day, which means if he was not wearing them twice, where did the extra ones go?
Yeah, so at the end of, I don't know, every 3 or 4 games, I was actually in charge of it. When I was playing, there's in the middle of the locker room this big box full of cleats, and we would just our EK, our equipment manager, he would take those cleats to a local high school, local.
Oh, very cool.
We just donate. I mean, literally one wear cleats, literally one wear gloves, one wear. I mean, you get them, you give them away.
Can we just fast forward for a second because you do so much youth football? If you find out that you could be wearing Russell Wilson's cleats, do you actually want to wear them?
Well,
like you want to just like, I want to like put those like in a like a nice case.
So it's crazy, right? I donate a lot of stuff to like, you know, Goodwill and stuff in Richmond. And yeah, you got old Russell Wilson jerseys that I bought my kids when they were old Mike Robb jerseys. Walking around Richmond, people have no clue that those are real jerseys in a real locker room worn by real guys. Yeah, it's because I don't have enough space for them, so I give it away. Literally, like signed footballs and everything. I have so much, I give it away. I got a Beast Mode Hawaii jersey from one of his Pro Bowls that I accidentally gave to the Goodwill. This kid is just walking around, has no clue that that's a Beast Mode game worn Pro Bowl jersey.
So here, if you're in Richmond and there's a Goodwill near you and you see some cool like Seattle gear, that is legit.
It came from me.
What we just realized. Look, I know we got so many questions. I was so thrilled to get not only the words of like encouragement, like, hey, I really love the pod. Like, it's really cool. Like, people are actually checking out this podcast. Continue to support us, man. Really, really do appreciate it. If we didn't get to your question, I promise you, I'm literally screenshotting and sending them all to our team.
Trust
this
me.
Went way longer than we were supposed to go.
I'm on the text chain. He texts.
I text everyone. I throw in like fire emojis and the whole thing. But make sure you follow us on Twitter at @RealMikeRob, @Mike_Yam. And I promise this is not the only mailbag episode we are going to do. I promise before the season's over, we got at least 5 more of
there you
these.
Go.
Right? I like doing these because I like hearing what people want to hear about. So keep them coming. Really do appreciate it. The mailbag episode, that's explained.